When people think about Sylvester Stallone, they imagine Rocky standing strong and proud in the boxing ring. Or they picture Rambo running through the jungle with his big muscles and guns. But when the cameras stopped rolling and he wasn't acting anymore, Stallone had to fight very different kinds of battles. These weren't fights in movies. They were real arguments with other famous Hollywood actors and movie stars. Some of these big fights happened right out in the open where everyone could see them. Other fights stayed quiet and secret, happening behind closed doors after the movie sets closed down for the day. His anger and dislike for some people ran so incredibly deep that it broke apart friendships that had lasted for years. It ruined some people's careers and jobs in movies. And it almost completely destroyed and killed some huge blockbuster films that could have made millions of dollars. Who are these people that Stallone fought with? Stay tuned and keep watching because the stories you're about to hear will totally change the way you think about Sylvester Stallone forever. You'll never see him the same way again. Out of all the enemies and people that Stallone ever had problems with, nobody was as famous or as mean and never giving up as Arnold Schwarzenegger. Their big fight and feud started way back at the 1977 Golden Globe Awards. This was a fancy awards ceremony, and it was a night that Stallone thought would be perfect and amazing for him. He believed his movie Rocky would win everything, and he would be crowned as the champion and hero of the underdog miracle story. Instead of winning, he had to sit there in complete shock and disbelief as his film Rocky lost one category after another, again and again. And there was Arnold Schwarzenegger, this huge, muscular newcomer from the country of Austria. Arnold was laughing and smiling each and every time Rocky got snubbed and didn't win an award. Then Arnold walked away from the ceremony with the prize for New Star of the Year, while Stallone got nothing. Stallone completely lost his temper and snapped. He later told people and admitted, "I picked up a bowl of flowers and threw it right at his head." That exact moment, that one night, started and ignited a rivalry and competition that would go on to define and shape the next 15 years of both of their careers in Hollywood. The entire 1980s decade became like a Cold War between two people with giant egos. Stallone was the king and ruled the box office with Rocky II, Rocky III, Rocky IV, and First Blood. Meanwhile, Arnold fought back and struck hard with his own movies: Conan the Barbarian, The Terminator, and Predator. Each film that came out seemed like it was specifically designed and made to one-up the other guy and be better than his movies. The teasing and mocking between them wasn't hidden or subtle at all. In Arnold's movie called Twins, he smiled and smirked at a Rambo poster hanging on the wall. In Stallone's movie Tango and Cash, Stallone's character literally beat down and fought an Arnold look-alike character not just once, but twice in the film. When they weren't on camera and were off-screen, the sabotage and tricks grew even nastier and meaner. Arnold pretended to be interested in and chase after a terrible, awful script for a movie called Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. He did this on purpose, knowing that Stallone's pride and ego would make him want to grab it and take it first just to beat Arnold. Stallone fell right into the trap and did exactly that. He took the role. And when the movie came out, the critics absolutely destroyed and hated the film. They called it a desperate and sad attempt to copy Arnold's success in making funny comedy movies. For many years, neither man would give up even an inch of ground. Neither one would admit defeat or back down. The fans absolutely loved watching the competition. The newspapers and press ate it up and fed on all the drama. And all that tension and competition pushed both of them to go to extremes and work even harder. It was only later in the 2000s that the hostility and anger finally started to cool down and get better. This happened when both of them appeared together in the same movie called The Expendables. They even opened a restaurant business side by side as partners. Stallone later told reporters and confessed, "We were fierce and intense rivals. But that rivalry and competition pushed us both to do our very best work." Their war and battle began with humiliation and embarrassment, but it ended years later in respect and admiration for each other. This was a rare and unusual case where Stallone's hatred and anger eventually became real friendship. Sylvester Stallone once went head-to-head and fought directly with a Hollywood legend, and Stallone actually won the fight. The man who lost and walked away was none other than Kirk Douglas, the super iconic and famous star of the ancient Roman movie Spartacus. On the movie set of First Blood in 1982, what started and began as a casting triumph and success quickly went downhill and descended into a brutal and nasty power struggle between two strong personalities. At first, and in the beginning, everything looked absolutely perfect and promising. Kirk Douglas, who was already immortalized and made famous forever by movies like Spartacus and Paths of Glory, had agreed and said yes to play the character of Colonel Troutman. Troutman was the one man in the story who truly understood John Rambo and knew what he was going through. This meant old Hollywood prestige, and class was now colliding and crashing into Stallone's raw and rough intensity and acting style. But Douglas wasn't happy or content to just play the part the way it was written. After studying and reading David Morrell's novel that the movie was based on, he demanded and insisted that the film should end with Troutman killing Rambo instead of letting him live. Again and again, over and over, he challenged and questioned the script. He would say things like, "Kirk Douglas wouldn't say this line," and "Kirk Douglas needs a stronger and better ending." For Stallone, who was carefully shaping and molding Rambo into a powerful symbol of wounded and hurting veterans coming back from war, Douglas's demands felt like sabotage and betrayal. Stallone had fought hard and worked to protect the story's important message about survival and hope, not about senseless and pointless death. The director, Ted Kotcheff, finally lost his patience and snapped. He told Douglas very bluntly and directly, "This is the film we're making and creating. If you don't like it and can't accept it, you can leave and walk away." And that's exactly what Douglas did. He walked off and quit the production just a few days after filming had started. Richard Crenna was brought in at the very last minute as a replacement. He was memorizing and learning his lines on the way to the movie set. Ironically and surprisingly, his calm and fatherly performance and acting gave the film its emotional heart and soul. His character balanced Stallone's rage and anger perfectly. The ending of the movie stayed hopeful and positive. Rambo lived and survived, and because of that, a billion-dollar franchise and series was born and created. Stallone never forgave or got over Douglas's arrogance and pride. He once made a remark and said that some actors care way more about their exit and how they leave than they care about the story itself. This was clearly a reference and comment about Kirk Douglas, though he didn't say his name directly. The two of them never worked together again after that incident. And while Stallone went on to build a huge and successful franchise with multiple Rambo movies, Douglas became known as the man who is remembered for almost killing and destroying it before it even started. It's hard to believe and imagine, but the man Stallone once called a true friend and buddy became someone he could never forgive or forget. That man was Eddie Murphy, the famous comedian and actor. In the late 1980s, Stallone and Eddie Murphy were completely inseparable and always together. They were two megastars at the very top of their game and careers. They shared laughs and good times, went to parties together, and had real respect for each other. But in 1987, a single rumor and piece of gossip ripped and tore that friendship apart forever and for good. The spark and beginning came during the making of Beverly Hills Cop 2. Stallone's wife at that time was a woman named Brigitte Nielsen. She was cast and hired to act in the film, and she starred opposite Eddie Murphy as his co-star. Brigitte was striking and beautiful, magnetic and impossible to miss or ignore. Pretty soon, rumors started to spread like wildfire that Murphy and Nielsen were more than just co-stars working together. They said the two were having a romantic relationship. Crew members who worked on the set started to whisper and talk quietly about it. The tabloid magazines and gossip papers amplified it and made it bigger and louder. Suddenly, Stallone's name was linked and connected to scandal and drama in every single headline in the newspapers. Even if nothing romantic had actually happened between them, the humiliation and embarrassment cut very deep into Stallone's heart and pride. Stallone later admitted and confessed that he picked up the phone and called Murphy directly. He demanded answers and asked him straight out, "What's going on between you and Brigitte? Tell me the truth." Murphy denied everything completely and said nothing had happened. But the damage was already done and couldn't be fixed. The trust between them had cracked and broken, and Stallone's pride and ego left absolutely no room for repair or fixing things. When they saw each other at parties after that, things turned into awkward and uncomfortable silences. Mutual friends that they both knew had to pick sides and choose who to be loyal to. By the time the 1990s rolled around, their bond and friendship was completely dead and gone. Murphy would later call it sad and unfortunate that gossip and rumors destroyed years and years of good friendship. But Stallone never looked back or tried to fix things. He just moved forward and cut Murphy out of his life. The fallout and consequences weren't just personal and private. They were also public for everyone to see. Hollywood started comparing the two men to each other, pitting their box office numbers against each other and creating competition. This fueled the rivalry even further and made things worse between them. The man who had once been Stallone's closest ally and friend became just another face and name on his long list of enemies and people he didn't like. One sandwich, one tiny drop of mustard sauce. That's all it took for Sylvester Stallone to turn Richard Gere from a rising young co-star with potential into a lifelong enemy he would hate forever. The year was 1974, way back before either of them was famous. Both Stallone and Gere were unknown actors who were fighting and struggling to get a break and chance in Hollywood. They were both cast in a low-budget film that didn't have much money called The Lords of. Flatbush, what should have been a stepping stone and helpful boost to stardom for both of them, instead became one of the pettiest and most violent feuds in all of Hollywood history. Who had co-written the script and helped create the movie, poured his heart and soul into playing a character named Stanley Rosiello. Stanley was a tough guy on the outside with a soft and gentle core on the inside. Richard Gere, who was trained in theater and stage acting, came into the production with a different style of acting. He was precise and careful, methodical and organized, and obsessed with every small detail of his performance. Their personalities and ways of doing things clashed and fought immediately from the start. They just didn't get along or work well together. The final straw that broke everything came during a cramped and tight car scene. The actors were all squeezed into a small car together for filming. During this scene, Gere was eating a sandwich, and some mustard dripped and fell onto Stallone's pants. Without any hesitation or thinking twice, Stallone elbowed Gere hard in the head and then physically threw him out of the car. This all happened right in front of the cast and crew members who were watching. The entire movie set went dead silent and quiet. Nobody knew what to say or do. The producers who were in charge had no choice about what to do next. Richard Gere was fired and kicked off the movie. The official excuse they gave was creative differences, which is a polite way of saying the actors couldn't work together. But everyone on set knew the real truth. Stallone had claimed dominance and power, showing everyone that he was the boss. And Gere's humiliation and embarrassment spread quickly through all of Hollywood. Everyone heard the story. Richard Gere never forgot what happened to him that day. He held on to that memory in anger. Stallone later mocked and made fun of Gere in interviews with reporters and magazines. He called the tension between them a personality clash that couldn't be solved or fixed. He acted like it was no big deal. But to Gere, the incident was proof and evidence that Stallone would rather fight and be violent than compromise and work things out peacefully. Many decades later, even now, the two actors still avoid each other completely. They won't work together or even be in the same room if they can help it. Rumors swirled and flew around that the bad blood and hatred even fueled Gere's bitterness and anger during his later rise to fame and success in movies like American, Gigolo, and An Officer and a Gentleman. What could have been an early alliance and partnership between two future icons and legends turned into a feud and fight over a mustard stain. And it was a feud that Stallone never allowed to fade away or be forgotten. When Stallone created and made The Expendables, it wasn't just another regular action film. It was something special and meaningful to him. It was his love letter to the 1980s, a time he loved. It was about a brotherhood of legends and famous action stars giving fans one last ride and adventure together. And at the heart and center of that brotherhood was Bruce Willis, the famous actor from Die Hard. But what began as camaraderie and friendship turned into Stallone's most bitter and angry public feud. It was a fight that shattered trust between them and made headlines around the entire world. In the first two Expendables films, Bruce Willis played a shadowy and mysterious CIA man named Mr. Church. It wasn't the biggest or most important role in the movies, but his presence and being there gave the team credibility and made them look more serious and real. Stallone saw Willis as an equal, another soldier and warrior from the golden era of tough guys in the 1980s. He thought they were friends and partners. But by 2013, when The Expendables 3 was gearing up and getting ready to film, Willis's demands and requests stunned and shocked everyone involved in the production. He wanted to be paid $4 million for just 4 days of work. That's right, 4 days. He said no negotiations and no compromise. He wouldn't discuss it or change his mind. That meant he wanted $1 million for each single day of work. Stallone, who had built the entire franchise on the idea of loyalty over ego and putting the team first, saw this demand as a betrayal and backstabbing. Instead of caving in and giving Willis what he wanted, Stallone made a tough decision. He cut Willis out of the movie completely and brought in Harrison Ford to replace him. Then Stallone did something rare and unusual for Hollywood actors. He went public with his anger and didn't hide it. On Twitter, the social media website, Stallone blasted and attacked Willis. He called him greedy and lazy right there for everyone to see. The words he used were brutal and harsh, and they stuck in people's minds. Overnight, Bruce Willis went from being a beloved everyman that everyone liked to being whispered about as difficult to work with and money-obsessed. His reputation changed just like that. The Expendables 3 survived and did fine without Willis. It grossed and made over $200 million at the box office. But the brotherhood and friendship between the actors was broken and destroyed. It could never be the same again. Fans noticed that Willis was absent and missing from the movie, and the magic and special feeling of the old gang being together was never quite the same as before. Stallone had drawn a line in the sand, proving and showing that, in his world and the way he sees things, loyalty and being faithful mattered way more than fame or how much money you could make. As for reconciliation and making up with each other, the two men have avoided each other ever since that incident. Their friendship has been replaced by a silence that is louder and more powerful than any explosion or blast on the movie screen. 6 actors, 6 battles and fights, and a side of Sylvester Stallone that the public rarely sees or knows about. Some feuds ended in respect and understanding for each other. Others ended in silence and people not speaking. But all of them proved and showed one thing clearly. Stallone never forgot a slight or insult. He never let go of being wronged. Which story shocked and surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments section below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more untold Hollywood rivalries and secret stories about famous actors.